This idea of training up involves the idea of time. You got to spend time with your kids. Here's the other idea. Training up also, and this is hard for dads. I don't know why, but it is. Training up involves the idea of understanding. Like if you're going to train somebody in an athletic sport, you got to understand what sport they may be good in. I mean, you have to have some understanding of the athlete, or you're not going to be a good trainer. You got to know where they're beginning from, right? And so when I'm talking about understanding, when you're training up, you have to have some understanding. I mean, it's simple things like, here's one thing. Guys get this usually. Dads get this. You have to understand what gender your child is. Thank you. Because my wife has told me 1,000,000 times, you know, she's not a boy. Are you serious? You treat her kind of like a boy. And I go, oh. I got 3 other boys, you know, and she goes, well, she's not a boy. And I go, oh, she is good at short arm fighting, though. She's amazing at it, actually. She's incredible and strong as an ox. Man, that girl's amazing. Anyway, so it's this idea of understanding simple things like gender. Here's some other things you need to understand. This is the hardest one. Seriously, you should look on the internet for this. Developmental stage. Dads, this will save you so much frustration on the baseball field, because motor skills come later than you want them to. And I've had that experience where you say, why can't you just do this? And the child's going, I don't know, Dad. I don't know why I can't. It's because they don't have motor skills. They don't have eye-hand coordination. And you don't understand that because it seems so simple for you. Google this stuff. You know what? Okay, my child is 5. What should I expect developmentally with this child? That's part of training him up. I mean, my child is 12. When they get into that middle school, they call those middle school years, they get into that abstract thinking around the 5th grade or so, and they begin to think about abstract concepts. It's a different ballgame. Before that, it's all literal, you know. When you say, well, man, if you keep yelling, you're going to catch on fire. They get scared. You know, it's like, I'm going to catch on fire? I'm really going to catch on fire? Well, no, it was a figurative speech. What kind of figurative speech? What's a figurative speech? You know, but when they get to, a little older and they can understand these abstract concepts, it's a whole different communication game. You got to understand where they are in their developmental stage. Here's another one. You have to understand their personality type. Are they introverted or extroverted? You got to understand that. You got to get in the game. You got to know this. This is what a coach does. You got to know what person plays what position. In order to know that, you got to know their skill set. You got to know their interests. You got to know their abilities. You got to know their personality. Are they introverted or extroverted? What are they? It's that whole deal. Here's another one. You have to know their love language. What makes them feel loved? Because what one child feels loved, like one of my children love gifts. So if I bring that child a gift, man, they feel, man, Dad thought about me and cared for. Another child of mine feels loved when you have conversation. It's not gifts. It's just meaningful conversation and lots of it about nothing. I told my daughter the other day, I said, look, she told this story. It was really long, and I was trying to be a good listener. I'm trying to be a good listener when I do this. I'm trying to be this good listener, and I could tell her mom, who's patient as Job, I mean, she's amazing. She was even like, where's this going? It went on and on. And then the conversation just stopped. She just quit talking as if it was over. And I said to her, Madison, it is so much more enjoyable for the listener when your story actually has a point. If you could just throw a point in there, just like, this is the point of the story. And it wasn't. She goes, I know point. I'm just telling you, just information. Okay, well, send me an email. It's that kind of deal. It's like, it's that deal. It's like, it's so much more enjoyable when you have a point. Really, it really is. So what is your love language? You got a conversation. What is it? Is it respect? Is it responsibility? What is it? You got to know that. See, that's what a coach does. What are their interests? And here's a parenting mistake. Man, if you think they ought to have your interest or their siblings' interest, you're in trouble. Why don't you like this? I like that. Why don't you like this? Don't you like that? No, I don't like that. and you're offended, and they want to like it because they know you want them to like it, that's a problem. And it creates so much stress. So if you're going to train up a child, you got to have this great understanding on who they are. Because, listen, here's what I'm really trying to say with this. This is so subtle. Most of the time in life, you're told this wisdom. Start with the end in mind. Right? You've heard that. It's great advice most of the time. It's not really great advice in parenting. And I'll tell you why. That's how I parent for a long time. When you start with the end in mind, what you're saying is, I'm starting with an end product, what my child wants to be when this thing's over, which is an abstract concept. And so their entire life, until they get to that point, because you're thinking about what they should be and end in mind, they will feel like they never measure up. And you will feel consistently frustrated. So with parenting, you cannot start with the end in mind. Here's what I want you to be, and so I'm going to be on you for 18 years until you become that. And the reality is, if you parent like that, you only get about 12 years. Because as soon as they get mobile, they're gone. Because they can't do that anymore. So that's the ideal here. So what you got to start with is where they are, not where you want them to be. It's kind of incarnational. When Jesus came to dwell among the earth, he started with where we were. He didn't come down and say, here's what you need to be. He says, here's where you are. And he walked among us. He dwelt among us. He loved us unconditionally. He started with where we are. He took us to the next place until we understood that God loved us so much that he gave his only begotten son that we could have a relationship with him. He was incarnational. He started with me. He didn't start with him. That's how a good Heavenly Father does it, and so that's how we should do it. Where are you as the child? That's understanding, and then start there. What's the next thing, the next step of maturity, the next life stage, the next developmental piece? That's where we need to get to. Don't start with the end in mind. It'll frustrate everybody.